theater troupes on my, for the past 20 years, and there's always somebody who comes and goes, and for 2 years to stay together.
Well, Roger, that's kind of connected to their name.
Yeah.
11th
Why they
hour?
call themselves
Okay.
the 11th hour, and I'll let them tell that story.
Tell today's story. How's that?
Because we do everything less but we do all have jobs. We all work.
We go straight from work to rehearsal.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, and but I mean, this particular group, we've all been working together for a while. As we mentioned before, the show has been through different incarnations. And we did a 50-minute musical theater version of it at school with one of the teachers, and that had 14 people in it. And then we throughout the years, people have come and gone a little bit. So, I mean, it hasn't been this group all the way through. But there's a couple people who've been in from day one of the first little scene. And as we said, other people were just kind of drawn to it, and we incorporated them. And we're all friends and peers, or were peers at school.
And I think as far as finding work, I think the longer after we graduate that we stay in San Francisco where we live, we find that the community actually gets smaller and smaller. And so it's really just about making friends and staying in touch with them and keeping in touch with them. And I mean, I certainly can't pay all my bills with the little amount of money that I might make from theater, but more and more as time goes on, I might get a gig here and there, and maybe get an offer I teach a little bit sometimes, so that's a little bit of extra cash. And at some point, we got to a point where we were able to give each other like $100 maybe, and here and there. And it's important. And we also I learned along the way that it's important to value yourselves as artists. And if someone asks me for my time, I realize that it's okay to ask if I'm going to get compensated. That's okay to ask, and it's fair, and you're offering a skill that not everyone has to bring to the table. So that's been a big lesson for us in the past 2 years, is learning how to maintain your connections, market yourself, not be afraid to understand your value to the community.
And the fact that you guys share knowledge, I mean, that's a valuable commodity in itself. Like,
definitely. Your peers are some of your best resources.
Oh my gosh. Good for you guys. Yeah, that's great.
We will take one more question. These guys have had a very long day.
As for the blocking and the dance movement, did that come about because it was so fluid and it was perfect? Did that come about with all of you coming together and just taking each of your dancing and putting it together, or was that more you saying, I want this to go this way, and then the ideas just fell together, or how did that?
That's a good question. It's a really good question. With the viewpoints, it's a great tool to have, because what you can do is, what the viewpoints does is it breaks down what people do on stage anyway into a vocabulary which you can talk about it really easily in. It goes through, I mean, the different viewpoints are like topography and tempo and duration. So you can say, that was great, can you take it at a slower duration and repeat it, have repetition, and take it on a curved topography, which is so much easier than trying to describe like some mood or idea that you want, and maybe like a curve in here or whatever. So we know how to talk to each other, and with that, you can make choreography really quickly and intuitively just from the group. And all that you really do, all I would really do as a director, is give them a list of things that I wanted. So like the Horse with No Name dance, for example, we did that in about an hour. Because what happened is I split them all up into groups. There's how many pairs of two, and they each took a section of the song, created a choreography to that song, and I gave them like themes and stuff to work on, certain shapes and stuff to work with. We brought it all back, taught it to each other, and in the end had a dance. And so what it really was is I would ask them to create material, and then I would pick and choose, rearrange, modify, and make it what fit for the whole show.
Another thing we would do too is in the beginning, as an assignment, as a way for Allison to get ideas and gather material, was that we blocked the show in a matter of 2 hours. She would say, okay, each of us would get a turn to direct a certain scene, and all the little different moments that you saw, and we would build that together really quickly.
10 minutes.
In 10 minutes. And then after that, like we would, do a couple of dress rehearsals, run through it, and then Allison would say, okay, go, let's just do it and see what happens. And that also served us, that also served us and Allison to...
It was great having a rough sketch of the show after the first 2 rehearsals. After the first 2 rehearsals, we know where it started and more or less what happened in between and where it ended, and it was very rough, and the process became like fleshing it out and defining moments and creating more specificity, but and that's, I think, you mentioned our name, 11th Hour Ensemble. I think that's part of where it comes from, is your best ideas tend to come from when you're not thinking too much or not getting too much in your head. You just kind of
Time
have
is
an
running
impulse.
out.
Yeah, you have an impulse and you go, I gotta do something, and you just get it out there, and that tends to be the best stuff, as opposed to the stuff that you sit and mull over for an hour and then you're like, I didn't really get anywhere. So we tried to take as much thinking out as possible and to just kind of do it, and that's part of why we're called 11th Hour, is just we don't want to let our minds get too much in the way. So.
Well, we want to thank you for coming here to Bakersfield and inspiring us.
We had a great time.
When I initially, we were setting this up and I'm having these conversations with Ryan, I had these fears that I'd just have like 25 people in the Dore Theater, but what a wonderful turnout.
Thank you
So much.
They do have a website. It's, spell it out, the 11th?
11th Hour Ensemble.org.
With the
And-
numbers,
Yeah.
1-1.
1-1.
And you become fans on Facebook and all that great stuff and keep in touch with them. And of course, you can take inspiration from them. You don't have to wait for theater to drop on your head. You can make it yourself.
And yeah, and we have a
And you don't
Facebook.
need a script. You can make it yourself.
And we have a Facebook. You can friend us on Facebook and send us comments if you're curious about some of the people that we've discovered in doing all of this. We'd be happy to pass along some of the groups that we drew inspiration from, so that you could take a look at them or anything. Just
If
shoot
you're
us
in
a
San
message.
Francisco,
Look
hit us up.
Yeah.
Come play with us.
Yeah, definitely. But we had a really great time with you guys, and it was really fun for us to come out and get out of the city, and we definitely learned a lot from doing this. So
They're
we're really thankful for
vacationing in
the
Bakersfield.
I'm sorry.